Hello and welcome to Inside Music. I'm your host, James Shotwell, and I guess I owe you all a big apology. It's been about 2, maybe 3 weeks since the last episode of Inside Music, and I am so sorry, but life has a funny way of getting away from you. I'm sure you all can relate to this, but the past month of my life has been rather insane. Right after recording the last episode with Tanner Jones from You Blew It, I spent a weekend in Boston on a last-minute assignment. The weekend after that, I was in Cleveland for an assignment, and then it was Thanksgiving and my birthday, and then here we are, Day 1 of December 2016, and I realize it's been a couple of weeks since we had an episode come out. I know I promised you episode 100 by November 23rd, but we had some guests fall through, and in order to give you the best possible show, I just had to delay it. So we'll get to episode 100. It looks like it'll be here in about 2 weeks, but right now we're on episode 98, and my guest is somebody that I've wanted to have on the show for at least a year now. His name is Josh Childress, and he's a member of the band The Plot and You, but what's more important is that he's a solo artist right now. Well, not in the sense that he left The Plot and You, but he's releasing his first solo record under his own name. It's called Always Blue, and it arrives in stores online December 9th. There's no physical printing. There's no label attached to it. This is just Josh being Josh for the world to experience. Now, Always Blue is Josh's very first solo release ever. It's the first thing he's really kind of done for himself, and it is an experimental rock album that, goes all over the map. There's really no one sound here. If you're a fan of The Plot and You and you like the heavier stuff that they make, I will say that that's not what this album is about. There are heavy moments, but there's also a lot of synth, there's a lot of subtlety, there's a lot of things here. Some songs have 60, 70 channels of things going into them. It's a lot to take in, but it is an experience unlike anything else you have been offered thus far in 2016. And considering that there are only 4 weeks left in the month, I think it's safe to say that it is something you will only find with this release. And Josh came on the show to not only tell me about it, but also to tell me about the origin of the record, what he was thinking while he was recording it, his goals for the release, the plans with The Plot and You moving forward, and how we both love Maggie Rogers. I don't want to get too much into that part of the conversation just yet, but if you haven't heard Maggie Rogers' song Alaska, you definitely need to check it out, but not until after you've given Josh's solo record a chance, because it is great and it is worthy of your time. And before we get any further, I'm going to tell you who made this podcast possible so that we can just get right to the conversation. This episode of Inside Music is brought to you by Holix, the music industry's leading digital promotional distribution company. Now, what that means is that Holix works with record labels, independent artists, managers, publicists, and all sorts of music industry professionals to share new and unreleased music with the industry at large without fear of piracy. That means sharing albums with members of the press for review, sharing albums with people in radio to get airplay, all of that. Holix makes it simple, easy, secure, and affordable. For more information on Holix and access to a free 30-day trial, visit www.holix.com. That's HAULIX.com. And I know I probably don't have to say the www. That makes me sound old as crap, but it's habit forming. So thank you for letting me do it. Secondly, I want you to follow the podcast on Twitter. We have a nice community there of people who are really engaged with the show, and I love seeing comments. I love seeing people talk about what they liked about the show, what they didn't like, things they wish I had asked, because a lot of people, if you've been listening for a long time now, you already know this, a lot of people come back eventually, and I want to make sure that the conversations we're having are conversations that you want to hear. There are some people that I think you need to discover, and I'll bring those to you as guests, but if there's somebody you want to hear on the podcast, the way to tell me is through Twitter, so follow us. It's at Inside Music Pod. That's at Inside Music Pod. Finally, I need you to support Josh. Josh Childress is somebody that I consider a friend, actually. He's a digital friend, somebody that I've never actually hung out with in real life, but we share so much in common and we have such great conversations that I feel like I know him in a very personal way. And I think after you hear his debut album, Always Blue, you're going to feel like you know him pretty well yourself. I'm going to play a little bit of music from Josh's record, which again comes out December 9th, and then we're going to get into the conversation. So here's Josh Childress, followed by a conversation with Josh Childress. Thank you so much for listening. Look for episode 99 next week.
Another day, it kills me slowly. Another day, it kills me slowly.
man. Well, you're kind of in a fortunate or not so fortunate. I don't know. It's been a few weeks since the podcast has been out because I've been I had a lot of things come up in life and it kind of tore me away. So I've been like wanting to jump back into getting the show going, and I didn't like have anything to talk about that I was really crazy about. And then I remembered that you posted about your single coming out for your record, and I was like, perfect opportunity, because I feel like we followed each other on Twitter forever and we've never really spoken about it. So it worked out pretty well.
Right. Yeah. Definitely stoked to be able to talk.
Yeah. So I guess I want to get to like the origin of this, but beforehand, I kind of want to know like what your story in music is, because I kind of can piece together like the latest chapter. I mean, I've been following your work for a while with the Plot and You and stuff. So can you kind of give us the origin story of Josh? Like where do you come from? How did you get into all of this?
God. Well, in high school. I slowly started getting into playing guitar. I had played since like fourth grade, but my parents got pissed when I wanted to quit sports, so they were like, "Oh, you have to pick up a hobby and do something." So I was like, "Oh, well, I guess I'll start playing guitar more," which I guess my mom totally regrets now. But quit sports, started playing guitar, was in a bunch of crappy bands in high school and into college, and met Landon and Ethan and all those guys through just local bands that we were into, just playing shows together and stuff. And Landon was in another touring band, and everything just kind of came together. We started playing together, and he quit that band. We got signed and went on from there. So it's been a long road to where I am now, but it's been cool.
Now,
a lot. I mean, meeting Landon. Go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead. Tell me. Meeting Landon. Tell me about that.
I was gonna say, meeting Landon is kind of what really set music off for me, because beforehand it was just more for fun on the weekends and stuff. But when I started playing with him, it became more of a career path than just a hobby. So definitely owe a lot to him.
And now, are you an Ohio native?
Yes. Well, I was born in Ohio, and as a kid, when I was younger, I moved around a whole bunch. My dad moved a lot for work, but now back in Ohio, I've been here since like second grade in the Toledo area.
Awesome. Yeah, I grew up. I lived in Michigan for most of my teen years, but as a kid, I grew up in like Findlay, Macomb, born in Bowling Green. So
okay.
We're from the same
cool. Yeah, the
stomping ground.
yeah. The band originated in Findlay, Plot and You. I mean, so that's kind of what we call our hometown, Findlay, because that's where Landon and Ethan were both from. I've always been up in the Toledo area, but I would always drive down there and stuff for practice. Now everybody's all over the place, but Findlay is definitely home.
And I love when bands have a home like Findlay, because it's not, like I hate when a band says they're from New York City, because it's like you're not, but Findlay is like you got to look it up on Google Maps.
Right, yeah, nobody has any idea what it is.
Yeah, where is that? And you're like, it's by Toledo, and they're like, maybe they know Toledo?
Yeah, Toledo is still questionable for most people. They're like, I'll be like just below Detroit, 15 minutes below Detroit.
Yeah, when I was, I remember when I was younger, people used to, when you'd bring up Toledo, they'd be like, "Oh, Jamie Farr and MASH," and I was like, "Yeah, but that reference doesn't work anymore."
Yeah, nobody knows who that is anymore. They just associate it with a golf tournament every year.
Exactly.
For the women's PGA. So that's what everyone just thinks that's what it is.
I actually thought Jamie Farr was a woman when I was a child, until I worked that golf tournament one year and I met him, and I met Charles Barkley, and I was like, "Oh, Jamie Farr's a man." Oh, okay. I didn't know. It made sense, like a women's PGA tournament. I just assumed that was me. That's non-woke 90s James, I guess.
That's funny.
All right, man. Well, I was excited to hear that you were going to do a solo record, but I got to tell you, I did not expect what I heard. And I mean that in like a good way, but I was like, I didn't know what to expect, I guess. You never know when someone's like, I'm going to do my first solo record, and especially when they're tied to a heavier act like The Plot and You. And this album is, I don't even know what I would call it. I kind of feel genreless. Experimental rock. What do you? How do you tell people about what you're doing?
It's honestly been really hard because when I sat down and started writing, I had no idea what I was going to go for, and that's just kind of what came out. And when I try to explain it, I'm just like, I have no idea. So experimental is what the tag I threw on it, but I don't know if that's even accurate or not. I just kind of went for it.
Well, when did you start piecing things together? Like, when did you start writing stuff that you were like, this is like the thing I'm going to keep for me?
Well, aside from doing like little shitty demos here and there, I'd never really recorded much stuff myself. And we came home from a tour, and I just like recorded this like instrumental demo and told myself, okay, I'm just gonna do like a little like instrumental EP. And I've been listening to Tycho a lot, so I was like, oh, I want to do something like that. And I started writing that. We got a couple songs done. And then one day I was just in the shower humming a melody, and it's the melody from the last song on the record. And I was just like, oh, I want to like see if I can just record that. So I just recorded the melody and then built a song around it. And then I was like so stoked on how it turned out that I kind of scrapped everything I had been doing and then decided, okay, I'm just going to do like an actual record. And just kind of went from there. I reused some of the instrumental tracks I had made. Track 2 on the album, the title track, was originally just like a jam instrumental song, and I just went back through and re-edited it a lot until I made it what I wanted. But yeah, it's kind of all, the record's all over the place. I didn't really set myself with any limits. I just kind of recorded whatever came out. So.
Yeah, before we get too much into the content, I did want to talk a little bit about the actual recording of yourself. How long have you been like working in production and such?
This is the first thing I've ever done.
I love it. I love it so much. That's so good to hear. So like, okay, now I'm even more curious. So like, what was the firing pistol? What made you want to kind of like get into production side of things? It seems like you just kind of had this moment where you're like, I want to do some stuff for me or something like that.
Honestly, that was it. I just like, we had a lot of time off from plot, and I needed a hobby, and I was just like, I'm going to try to record, and just kind of did it and would watch videos and read about it and ask Landon for help a lot. And it just kind of materialized into its own thing. Like it seems so weird looking at it now because I like can't even remember like putting stuff together. It just kind of happened, and the next thing I know, it was like done. And I was like, oh wow, like this is cool. I was like really proud on how it turned out, and I had no expectations at all. I just kind of went into it and hoped for the best.
And it's kind of funny you say that too, because when you listen to the album, it's like the way, if you just heard that thing you just said about how it got, you just started editing things and then it was done, you would think that maybe it's a fairly like simple release, but as we said, it's not. There's a lot of like layers and ideas and tracks going on in some of these songs. Where I was like, this is such an interesting way to put something together that it's kind of surprising to hear you be like, I don't know, it was done at some point. Like it just kind of fell together.
Yeah, it's really weird. I was definitely drinking a lot too while writing it, so that's part of the reason why I probably don't remember a lot of it. But yeah, it just kind of happened, and there it is. I don't know.
Do you consider this an EP or an album? Because I feel like it kind of straddles that gray line. 7 tracks, one of them's only 30 seconds long, so I guess 6 tracks.
Yeah, that's the thing. I was like, oh man, I don't know. I don't want to call it an EP because I feel like EPs get less attention, but it's like hardly long enough to be considered an album. Because I mean, the line, they say like 25 minutes is like the longest EPs are, and it's 27 minutes. And I was like, oh shit. I was like, and I tried to write more for it, but nothing was fitting. It like all the songs were like written around the same time, and they just like kind of came together. And the whole album is like more about the album itself rather than the songs individually. So I couldn't like really add anything else to it. And I just didn't want it to like lose any meaning being my first release as just an EP. So it's just like, I'm just going to call it an album. It can just be a short album, I guess.
Well, Weezer's Green album is only 27 minutes long, and that's 10 tracks, so you're fine.
Oh, okay. I'm good then.
Yeah. And I think the last Modern Baseball album is like 26 minutes or 23 minutes even. So I think you're good. Like it's fair. It's fair.
Oh, cool.
If we're running
I
off
don't
time,
feel bad at all. I think,
fine.
yeah, I think the first Plot record was only like 32 minutes at 10 tracks, so I think it'll be okay.
I love any album where the title track is the longest song on the record, because I feel like it's a challenge to people, where it's like, listen, this is not a radio record. Like here's a 6-minute title track.
Right.
So when you're writing this material, because it is kind of experimental and there's a lot of free flowing expression to it, like how do you know when to rein it in and when to kind of let it flow? Because it is like you have so many different ideas here, and the songs that do some of them are a little longer, some of them are pretty short. Like for you, like how do you know when a song is complete in the kind of the creation phase?
Just, I guess when I start listening back, I kind of listen for things that I didn't really notice when I was writing it. So I like try to ignore the fact that I wrote it and then look at it from like an outside perspective and just kind of hope that like I'm hearing different things going on, or like this lead was buried, but that's mixing with something else and I can kind of hear it. So we'll mix the song a bunch until I start hearing a bunch of different things. And as soon as I find it like interesting enough, like there's no parts that seem boring, or like I'm always hearing something new every time I listen to it, that's when I kind of feel like the song is complete. Yeah, I don't know. I wrote a lot for it, the record, and some stuff just didn't work. And then obviously the 7 songs that are on there did, well, 6, and if you don't count the third song as a song, second song, whatever. But yeah, I don't know. It's just, I kind of just, there's like a moment of clarity where I'm like, okay, this song is finally done. Yeah. And there's parts where, like the title track I thought was done probably I messed with it 4 more times before it actually was done, but I had thought it was done. And then I had some friends come over and just give me their input and help me with stuff. All the like sampling and the like keyboard sounds, synth sounds on the title track weren't originally on there, and I thought the song was done. But as soon as I added it, I was like, that's what it needed, and I felt like it complete the song that way.
I do want to talk about a couple of the tracks in particular, and I mean, I feel like we should start with the title track, because for a lot of people, that's the only song that they've heard off the record so far. So for you, like, what makes this song? I guess for starters, the title track. Usually, that tends to be the track that people kind of are like, this is the best representation of what I'm doing, or this kind of summarizes the idea of the album. So, what is it about this song that kind of made it be the one you wanted to get out there first?
I don't know, really. It was like, I think it was the most unique sounding song for me, and that's why because being the records all over the place, I wanted to release a song that kind of represented like, hey, there's no like pattern to this. And I feel like that song, I mean, it's got sampling, but then layered vocals, and then like double kick in the chorus and stuff like that. Like it's kind of got everything in it surrounding the record, so I felt like that was a good choice to name the album after that song.
I honestly, the first time I saw the title, I was like, this sounds like it's gonna be sad. Like it's just, just always and that is, so that's kind of what I go ahead.
I was gonna say I tried to write some happier sounding songs. It didn't work.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, for people listening that haven't actually heard the album yet, the other titles are like Gone, Bottle of Red, Hell in My Head, Rain. It's not exactly like they get positive from there.
No, you don't go drive your car around with the windows down singing it.
Yeah, this is not a summer road trip record.
Not at all.
But it's, but I do think it's a good winter record. I do think it's an album that kind of calls for contemplation and reflection. and you've certainly provided a soundtrack to that. And I want to talk about Bottle of Red, but I feel like we can only get there if we talk about God, which is the 30-second track. I don't even know if I should call it a song, just track.
Yeah.
What is the sample that you're using in that, or is it a bunch of samples?
It's just one sample. It's a preacher on YouTube ranting about how you're gonna go to hell if you, I don't know, sin and all that stuff. I grew up going to Catholic school my whole life, so I kind of have this, like, I don't know. I'm not religious at all anymore, and people can be. I don't mind. Everyone do their own thing, but I like question why. Like, I want to know why I went to Catholic school, and like looking back, and it's like, okay, I at one point did believe in these things. Like, why did I? And then the older I got, it just kind of, I don't know. I guess I had more clarity in my own head, at least, thinking, okay, I don't really believe in this anymore. So it's kind of just a representation of that.
I get that. I mean, that's kind of I didn't grow up Catholic, but grew up Presbyterian. But it's kind of a similar journey where at some point you start having questions, and then there aren't answers for them, and you're like, well, I guess this doesn't really work for me anymore. And it's kind of it's a thing you struggle with it forever.
Yeah.
No,
definitely.
Yeah, and I got that it was a preacher when I was listening to it, and it made me giggle a little bit because I thought about how back in like the 70s and 80s, when like heavy metal records, they would say that if you played them backwards, you would like hear the voice of Satan, and I was like, oh my God, if you played this backwards, you would hear the voice of God. Like you would almost hear the opposite thing.
Yeah.
I was like,
I should probably do that. I haven't played it backwards yet.
I was like, oh, what a clever twist. I understand that wasn't intentional, but I was like, oh, he's giving us like the hidden God track. Like, oh, have you played it backwards yet? You can hear God.
Yeah.
The
way to look at it.
When I was listening to the record last night, I was listening to the record getting ready to do this again, and I Bottle of Red and Disguise are the two songs that I kind of like. They're my favorite little couplet on the record. They kind of go together. But Bottle of Red is such an interesting song, and I was hoping that you could kind of talk a little bit about creating it, because there are a lot of elements to it. The vocals on it are kind of it's a unique choice for how you do the vocals, and there's a lot of layers. And what's that song about, and where does it come from?
That song is about, as I mentioned earlier, drinking a lot. And I really like wine. That's definitely my drink of choice. And there's been phases where I am laying in bed super drunk before I go to sleep, and I have bottles of wine on my nightstand, and I'm just drinking it as I watch TV or as I lay there passing out. So the song's kind of just about that, and realizing that that's probably not good for me, but I do it anyways. And the song, I wrote it on my acoustic just in my living room one night. The whole song is just 3 chords, and it repeats the whole time. Nothing really changes except for the bridge with the guitar solo. And it was just something I was riffing on in my living room, and kind of just came up with a melody for it eventually, and it came together. And it's also I'm the only person, well, not the only, but one of the only people in my friends group that does drink. My friends here back home, so it's kind of like talks about that, how all my friends like kind of look at me like, you're drunk all the time.
Yeah,
because they don't drink.
But it's a classy drunk because it's wine.
Yeah, right. It's a happy drunk. It's better than a whiskey drunk and me breaking stuff.
Yeah. You don't. I mean, you can get angry wine drunk, but it's like emotionally angry. It's not physically angry.
Yeah, you're crying and yelling at people.
Yeah. Angry wine drunk is just it's tears and clenched fist, like you hit a wall maybe. Like that's
right.
That's the extent. Are you strictly a bottle of wine guy? Do you do box wines? I've gotten into these little not like big box wines, but there are some really nice little box wine companies that I've really gotten into this year, because wine's my drink of choice as well.
Nice, nice. My parents love black box wine, so
Yes.
any family get together, it's just boxed wine. And I'll pick up some sometimes, but I really like this Merlot. It's Bay Bridge. It's $3 a bottle, which usually that's a terrible sign. Like, oh, this is gonna be terrible. But for some reason, that's my bottle of choice. So I try to stock up on it as much as possible. But I can never seem to keep my wine rack full. It's just got empty bottles in it.
Yeah, no, my wife and I are the same way where I'll be like, we should stock our wine rack, and I just end up like buying 3 bottles, drinking them that weekend, and then it's like, well, we have a bunch of empty bottles on our wine rack.
Yep, same. Yeah, I moved into a new place a few months ago, and when I moved in, I had a full wine rack, and that lasted about 2 weeks. So
Yeah.
since then, it's not ever been full. It'll have like 1 bottle or 2 bottle in it at a time, and then they're gone.
I sometimes I wonder if I bought more expensive wine because I'm like you, like I buy like black box, which for people that don't buy wine, that's like less than $10 for what is like 3 glass for enough to get you drunk. So
Right.
like I'm that way where I buy cheap wine. So to me, it's like, well, if I drink it, it doesn't really matter. So I wonder sometimes, like if I was one of those people that bought like $100 bottle of wines, if I would have a better wine rack because I'd be like, oh, I can't just drink $100 bottles of wine every day. And-
Right, yeah, for special occasions.
yeah, like you see it as an investment.
Maynard James Keenan from Tool actually has a vineyard, and he has like a wine club, and I've wanted to join it forever, but it's just so expensive. But I think one day I'll join it, and maybe I won't drink that wine as frequently as I drink my $3 bottles.
That's a new thing. The musician winery is like a growing trend because I know I've read about the Tool one. That one sounds cool. Like James Maynard Keenan doing wine. That's like awesome. You know, the guys in Train also have their own winery. Like there's drops
Oh,
of
really?
you can buy like drops of Jupiter Merlot.
Nice.
And it sounds dumb and like a joke, but that's a real thing. But I mean, it sounds nowhere near as cool. Train wine does not sound anywhere near as cool as James Maynard Keenan wine.
Right. Train, Tool. I'm gonna go with
Yeah,
Tool.
not quite as masculine sounding, I guess, or something. Oh no, that's great. Well, let me ask you this because I was thinking about this last night with the record because I really like it, and I think a lot of people are too. But I'm always curious in a thing like this where you're kind of just doing a project because you found some downtime and you wanted to do something creative. Like, do you have, I guess, hopes or goals for like the reception to the record? Like, do you hope that it like takes off or that it becomes its own thing, or is it just kind of like I made something I'm happy with and I just want to put it out there?
I definitely have the mindset of I just wanted to do this. I made something. Hopefully, people like it. But obviously, I would love for more and more people to keep enjoying it and stuff. So I didn't go into it like, oh, I want this to blow up or I want this to be the next big thing and take me to the next level. It was like a fun project for me to do. So I don't know. Hopefully, people buy it. It's really hard to get it to the right audience because all of my followers on the internet and anybody that I can push it to are fans of The Plot and You, which is so different. And obviously there will be some crossover of people that would enjoy both things. But I feel like most people that listen to stuff like The Plot and You don't listen to stuff like this record. So the biggest like struggle has been figuring out how I'm going to get it into the ears of people who actually would enjoy it versus younger kids that probably don't get it.
No, that completely makes sense, and it is one of those things where it is so different than what you're, I guess, known for lack of a better way to describe it. That it's kind of it is kind of an unknown in a way where you're like, I agree with who I think the target demo is for this, but there is kind of this air of like, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know how people are going to react to it.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of exists,
Yeah,
and I mean, even compared to like other albums out right now, it is kind of its own thing.
Yeah, like I said, when I went into actually starting it and decided that I was going to do a whole album, I did not set any limits. I was just like, I'm just going to do whatever comes out is what it's going to be. And here we are. So I don't know. Hopefully people like it. People will buy it, maybe. If not, oh well. That's a good thing. I didn't go record anywhere. I did it all in my bedroom. So I spent minimal money on it, getting it together. So if nobody buys it, then oh well. At least I got to do something fun and put something cool out.
That's
something I think is cool, at least.
Yeah, that's the way to look at it. I wanted to. You're the only other person I know that feels as strongly about this as I do, but I noticed the other day that you put out a list of your favorite albums and songs of the year, and Maggie Rogers' Alaska is like really high on your list.
Oh yeah, I actually found her because you retweeted her. You posted something about her, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna check this out. And as soon as I watched that video, I was like, wow, this is like one of the coolest songs I've ever heard. And since then, I've been listening to it nonstop. It's so good.
She's amazing, and that she wrote that song in 15 minutes, and it drives me insane because it's so good.
Wow! Oh my God! If I could write something like that in 15 minutes,
yeah,
I don't know what I'd do. Yeah, that song was incredible.
Yeah, she wrote it as part of. I mean, there's this famous viral video where she plays it for Pharrell and he cries, but the thing, like, what precipitated that was that it was like a student challenge assignment where they had, like, I don't know, an hour or something to make a song from scratch, and she made Alaska.
Wow.
Yes.
That's nuts. I did not know that. I need to dive into more info about her then, because that's crazy.
It's one of those weird things where she was an artist, like an independent artist who it just didn't happen. And then she got signed to a major because of this viral video, and they buried her like independent career. So if you go on YouTube and you look at Maggie Rogers, she has at least one full length album already out that's like done and been promoted.
Oh, really?
But it's not on iTunes and it's not on Spotify. Like the major took it down and it's tucked away. But I'm sure we'll see some of those songs come back on, like, her eventual major label debut. But there is like 15 or 16 songs out there if you're willing to kind of deep dive.
Oh yeah, I definitely need to. That's crazy, because in my head I was like, wow, this is the first song she ever wrote.
I did the same thing. I was like, how do you just come out of the woodwork like that?
Right.
It is. She's a little bit older, and she like went to college and stuff, but it was kind of similar. It's, in my mind, she's not that different than like a Lorde who kind of came out of left field with this song that she wrote in an hour, and everyone's just like, what is this? How did you do this?
Yeah, I was definitely shocked. I was like, wow, I was digging around for more and I couldn't find anything. And then she released that second song, Dog Years, I think it's called. Yeah. And that song is also awesome.
Exactly.
So good.
Also amazing.
I'm definitely anticipating her record.
Yeah.
Whenever it comes out. I don't know if there's a date or anything.
She has an EP out in February, an album sometime late next year.
Sick. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. I don't even know if that's all officially announced. So at Substream, we've tried to I want to do a print article with her. And so we've been trying to get her involved in the labels. Like, she doesn't have anything. And I'm like, I don't care. Like, I'll come up I can talk to her about just that song forever. So, I mean, that's all coming out. But I'm glad I found somebody else that feels that way. Because I've pretty much driven my wife insane, being like, she's the next big thing. And my wife, who doesn't work in music, is like, it's fine. She's like, it's fine. Yeah. You know how it is.
That sounds like me. Yeah, every time I find a new song, I'm showing everybody. And most of the time people are just like, yeah, this is cool. Like, stop playing this.
Yeah, stop. We got it. You like this song.
Yeah.
So, man, let me ask you this. Is there any way that we'll see these songs that you've recorded for Always? Was there any chance we'll see these, like, are you going to perform them live at some point? Is it possible to perform a lot of these songs live?
I've been thinking about that. I mean, some of these songs have like 60, 70 like channels on them. So many layers. I think like I could get away with playing Bottle of Red for sure. That's the only one I know. Like I could play that if I got some people together. I'd like to. I don't know. I got to find the right people to do it, and a lot of people. I feel like I need at least 9 people to play any of these songs. But it would definitely be fun. I would like to try eventually. We'll see if people like it enough, then maybe I'll do just a show here in my hometown and see how it goes or something.
I like that idea. You know, I had that thought where I was like, this is really complicated. Like, I'd love to see it live because I feel like if it could be pulled off, it would be something to see, you know, 9 people bringing these tracks to life. But it's one of those things where it's like, is there the demand to put all that work into it?
Right. Yeah. I mean, it would take weeks and weeks of practice. And then if 10 people showed up to my show, I'd be like, oh, God, why did I waste all this time?
As many people on
yeah,
stage.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah.
No, I think it'll go well, but no, it's definitely something that needs to be waited on. And I assume that looking into 2017, you're probably going to be busy with that other band you're in.
Yeah. We got a lot of stuff coming up. We actually just locked in recording dates for January for our 4th record. So stoked to get started on that. We've had a lot of time off, so it'll be fun to jump back. I gotta flip the switch back from home life and doing this stuff to back to plotting youth stuff. Get my head in the game.
Get heavy again. Heavy in a heavier.
Yeah, I mean, you saw my top list of 2016. There is pretty much no heavy music in there, so my mind is very far away from that. So I gotta kind of get back into the zone.
No, I mean I feel like that's one of those like best kept secrets of the heavy music scene is that most people in the heavy music scene, like their favorite bands are usually like Modest Mouse. Like it's always something kind of like obscure and not heavy at all.
Right. Yeah, definitely.
All right, man. Well, real quick, just to kind of lay it out there for people that are listening that maybe don't feel like doing the Googling and research, when will they be able to get the record? Where should they look to find the record?
December 9th, you can get it anywhere online, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, all that stuff. As of right now, I have no plans to make any physical copies, but if people seem into it, then maybe I will. We'll see. But December 9th, you can get it anywhere. I recommend listening to it on Spotify and then purchasing it if you like it, because I feel like if people buy it without hearing anything from it, they're going to be either pleasantly surprised or very turned off by it. So listen to it first.
Yeah, I like that. I've never heard an artist like put a cautionary warning before their own album. Like, hey, listen, try it first.
Yeah, dip your feet in, see if you like it. If you do, then you can buy it.
You're like, I don't want to be held accountable for you thinking that it's not what you thought it was. It's weird. I'm telling you that
exactly.
It's weird.
Yeah.
All right. I think people will want it because I feel like there's been a lot of the same in terms of certain genres this year, and something unique like this, or it's the same thing with Maggie Rogers, where it's so different that you're like, okay, like people will you kind of perk up to it because you're like, oh, something new.
Yeah.
So you're giving them that.
I'm always down for new stuff. That's I like to do different stuff all the time. That's what I'm all about.
And people can find you on Twitter. You're just Josh TPIY. Plotting you for people.
Yep.
Put it together.
Yep. Nice and easy. Same username for pretty much everything.
Except for your Bandcamp is your name.
Yes. My Bandcamp is my name.
Which I thought was interesting. With a project like this, I like that you kept your name because it would have been easy to kind of put a name in front of it.
Yeah, see, I thought about putting a name on it, but I couldn't come up with anything. I was like, I've never released anything as myself, so
yeah,
a little attention to my own name won't hurt.
Branding, very well done.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, this has been fun. I really love the record, and I'm curious. I was trying to figure out what song to put at the front of this episode, and I don't really know because there isn't like a radio single by any means. So, like, what song I guess Always Blue is the one you're out there, but is there another song that you feel like might be a good little teaser to play for people, a little sample for them to hear?
Oh, geez. I'd say Always Blue or Bottle of Red.
Okay.
Both those are out, so
yeah,
I mean,
it's easy.
People have heard them, but for people who haven't, I feel like those are the two strongest tracks.
Okay, all right, and I agree, they're great tracks. So, okay, that'll be the entrance people can hear it. The album comes out December 9th. You'll be busy next year, and I'm sure once you're out of the studio, you'll be on the road for the latter 10 months of the year.
Yeah, probably.
Probably. So people can come and find you, and thank you for the record and all that jazz. I mean, I thank you so much for coming on the show, man. I think this is episode 99, maybe it's 98, but you're like the last guest before 100, so congratulations.
Oh, sweet.
No,
So honored.
this has been fun, man, and I love interacting with you on Twitter and stuff. So I'm glad we kind of got to have this conversation, and hopefully we'll stay in touch.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for having me on.
No problem, man. Have a great day, and best of luck with the record release next week.
Thank you. Yeah, take care, man.
Yeah, bye.
Bye.